On today's episode number 23 of the Real Recovery Podcast, we welcome Jack T. Jack's incredible journey from addiction and homelessness to a life filled with purpose and recovery is a story of resilience and hope. Joining Jack in this episode is Colette, whose own recovery journey was shared in episode 4. Together, they provide a powerful narrative of overcoming adversity and finding strength in community. Stay tuned for an episode that promises to inspire and uplift.
Hello, and welcome to the Real Recovery Podcast. I'm Julie, your co-host. On this journey of healing and transformation, together with my co-host Peter, we dive into the heart of recovery, sharing stories that resonate with courage and inspiration.
That's right, Julie. Each episode is a new chapter in this vast narrative of recovery, and we're honored to bring them to you. But keep in mind, the perspectives you'll hear are for informational purposes only and may not reflect the views of the podcast or our partners.
Indeed, while these conversations can be a powerful part of your recovery toolkit, they are not substitute for professional medical advice. We encourage you to seek guidance from your healthcare provider for any treatment-related decisions.
And if you're facing an immediate crisis, or if you just need to talk to someone who understands, don't hesitate to call the Recovery Crisis Line at 503-223-8569. That number is also on our website. Help is available 24/7.
Now let's begin our episode
of recovery, real recovery.
So welcome to Real Recovery Podcast. We're with Jack. I'm so excited.
Jack, Julie, no Jill, and Peter.
Yep. Jack is here.
And I know you guys know Colette on our board of directors. Jack is Colette's sponsor.
Yes, my lovely Colette. I am so proud to be her sponsor. It's the highlight of my life, recovery life.
Can I tell you, when I suggested her to Peter for the board, it took him 3 seconds to say yes. He didn't even think about it. And then we did a podcast at Another Chance with Jonah. And he kept talking about this girl that saved his life. And then he was like, she runs a meeting here. And I was like, are we talking about my Colette? Like our board of directors, Colette? And he's just started crying. So, yeah.
She's a rock star.
So our fans should really like some Colette at this point in time.
I love her some Colette. It is such a pleasure to have anything to do with restoring Colette to the masses.
Can I tell you, I love that you say that. And I really love your relationship because it's extraordinary. That's the only way I can define it. And she tells people, and I don't do the traditional, I walked you through the steps. My sponsor was like my dad. And so I get it.
And that's so rare. It's so rare to have that kind of relationship. It's rare. I think it's like a 1 in 1,000 type thing.
Million even. Yeah.
Even million.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
So I'm just going to run with that. I think I do have a friend for life. But far and large, when you do pick up a sponsee, you don't hear from them. 95% of them, you don't hear from them. And then you got that
I'm going through a little challenge like that right now. So I understand. I hear from them. They ask me my advice. And then I call Colette.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I love them very much, so it's all good. So we want to hear your story.
Yeah.
You're not on a 10-minute timer like in a meeting.
No.
No timers
no.
here.
No,
You
not
just
at all.
let it go. Maybe start with your experience, how you got onto this journey.
To this journey. This amazing
That's the way I look at it, as a journey.
Basically how you got into it, how you got out, what you doing now.
God, how I got into it. Yes. You know what? I'll start from the very beginning is that I'm an only child. Only child crew. There we go. And a child of a single mother who worked her ass off. Yep. worked her ass off. It was just me and her. Of course, I don't know if you're able to pick up on it in my voice, but I am an African American. With Black women, I will say culturally, with Black women who are single mothers and they're raising their sons, they baby their children, they baby their sons. I was the center, am still the center of her eye. She mothered me. She did everything. She's my ride or die. And I think that this folds very well into my disease and what happened later down the line for me. And I was a good kid too. I was a good kid. So what happens with good kids who you can latch key very well is that you put them away. You trust them to do what they're going to do. And then you go off and you make bread. But what happens is two things: that they get like the idea that they're unloved, and they get up to things. They discover things on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what happened with me. That's what happened with me. And that, in retrospect, led to me becoming a very open-minded teenager. Through the TV and books, I started reading books and TV, and I became a weird teenager, a weird one, and a weird one, and
Or unique.
unique,
Okay.
maybe unique. And they didn't know how to respond to me. They didn't know what to do with this weird teenager. And I rebelled against that. And then I came out. And then, as shortly after I came out, I was just estranged from my family. I was angry, teenager. And then this is now falling up to 18.
Oh.
And then 18, I get out, and then I start going to bars. And then that's when I start understanding this kind of language that gay men of a certain age, they start to, I'll speak for myself, is that I discovered that I had a currency that I didn't know that I had. And that currency was sexuality. It was a currency of the sexual type. I could go out there and people wanted to have sex with me. And the lubricant of that was alcohol, because I could go into, I was raised in Fontana, California, and we have little 18 and over bars that you can get into with wrist bars. And really all you do is you pregame, and then you go into and then you have maybe your adult who will slide you a couple of drinks and you get blackout drunk. I was getting blackout drunk at 18 and 19 on Smirnoff Ices and stuff, if you remember those. And blue. What were those called? The blue.
I know.
Yeah,
Oh.
you remember those? Oh my God. I would drink those and get blackout drunk at 18 and 19, and I thought that was normal. I thought it was normal to wake up with men in strange houses, and that basically followed me till I moved to San Francisco at age 21, started working at bars. What started at age 18 just scaled upwards to, I'm a barfly. I'm going home with strange men, rolling the dice. I'm working jobs. I'm working at clothing boutiques and stuff because I was generally accepted as attractive, and that's what I used.
Right.
That was my currency. Nothing else. I didn't build anything else. That's something that you do see in the gay community a lot. And that just went to drug use, and that went to sex parties, and that went to my demise. So by age, my late 20s, I'm in the gutter. And by 31, I am having to go back home to live with my mom. That's when she lived in Texas at the time. I got a hold of meth before I went to Texas, and it took off in Texas. And I was there for about 6 months, terrorized her. Yes, terrorized the poor woman, meaning I was shooting up in her house
Wow.
Strange men were coming to her house and shooting up with me and having sex.
You terrorized her.
Yes, it was crazy. And then she said, and no, the whole family got together and they said, we can't have you do this. We can't have you do this. We don't care where you go. You just can't stay here. And they bought me a plane ticket. That plane ticket was back to San Francisco. However, I could not be homeless in San Francisco. I tried that for a while. I couldn't go back to my regular life because nobody would have me. I went from homeless in San Francisco to San Diego, from San Diego to Los Angeles. And Los Angeles was this big kind of like moment because Los Angeles is the worst place to be a fucking homeless. You're talking about like Skid Row. Oh my God. And we're talking about like a pampered kid like me. Like I was a pampered suburbanite latchkey kid who was now suddenly homeless. I didn't know shit about shit. So that was so frightening that I called up a sugar daddy, an old sugar daddy, and I told him I was crying and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And this is a guy who I actually had lived with who actually touched off my homelessness because he kicked me out. He kicked me out because he was like, I can't live with a meth addict. So he touched that out. He's the one who kicked me out so that I had to go back to live with my mom. I thought of this place called Portland. I was like, and he said, I've heard that Portland has a strong recovery community and it's fairly cheaper to live than San Francisco and you should just go. And I didn't know anybody, but I was like, but I knew Portland, yeah. And I didn't have anything and I didn't have shit. So
you mentioned that he told you it was a great place for recovery. So were you figuring out that this is a problem?
this
I
is
need
where it
help with
began.
this?
Yeah. That's where the seed was planted. The seed was planted that I had to get well. Like something had to actually happen.
Okay.
And that was in 2014. Now, I didn't get sober until 2016. As you imagine, there's just 2 years of just the same thing here in Portland. Me coming to Portland with absolutely nothing and being amongst the homeless people that we see every day. And it got actually even worse to the point where I knew that I would pass the point of no return. And I'll tell you a little story, if it's okay, of
Sure.
what the point of no return looked for me like. And what I think saved me is one of my flaws is that I care what people think of me and I like to be liked. And at the
Me
time,
too.
isn't it like it's killer?
It is.
It worked for me though. 82nd and Powell used to have a 7-Eleven.
I already know.
Yeah,
No, I'm just saying that 7-Eleven open 24 hours.
you know exactly. And there was a man who owned that 7-Eleven, and I would stay at the Unicorn.
Hot tubs.
I get the hot tub room. Oh yeah, get the hot tub room. Oh my God, with the shag carpeting.
Oh my
Shag
gosh.
carpeting.
Oh, my God, you been there, Peter?
No, I have not. I don't know what
He's
the
like,
unicorn
"Mm-mm."
is. It's a hotel of some
Yes,
sort?
it's a
or-
motel.
Motel, okay.
Yeah,
It's still there. It's
Yeah.
still there, and there's TikTok 24-hour restaurant on one
Jesus-
side,
Jesus Christ.
7-Eleven on the other.
Mm-mm.
The good thing is, I
Holy-
never had an escort client from there, but I was there with my ex. So
Ooh,
we just wanted the hot tub.
just wanted that hot tub. Oh my God! And did you get a yeast infection afterwards?
I was gonna
No.
Anything swim up in there? Because that was a nasty.
So
ass-
I'm going to tell you, it was mid to nasty there. Then we didn't have the homeless crisis then. We're talking 1986.
Oh,
AIDS was just starting to boom.
Mm.
And yeah, so it was a little better than it is now. So it was a little different.
The-
But I wanted the hot tub.
You got that hot
Yeah.
tub. I got that hot tub, and I was there quite often, and I would go to this 7-Eleven. I would go to this 7-Eleven, and I knew the guy, and I was friendly with him. Time went by, things got worse for me, and I was just like flat out on the streets. And I knew this kid in a tent. I hadn't eaten for about 5 days. I'm in his tent, and he's, let's go rob a place. Yeah, let's go rob a place. And I'm going to tell you, I was so bad at stealing. I couldn't, again, like I cared what people thought of me. But I did steal. I did have my times where I stole. And I went with him to that 7-Eleven. He said, if we go in, we're gonna go in. And we're gonna go in and we're just gonna walk in together at the same time and just start taking shit and just coming out. And I went in and I took a sandwich and something, a drink or something, and then I went out. But as I was going out, I saw the look on that man's face, and it gutted me.
Mm.
It gutted me. Why are you doing this? Well, oh my God, you would do this to me? And that stayed with me. And this was right before I take my ass to rehab. And I would say that was the gift, because that point of no return, you get to that point of no return where I could see that if the people that were living out on the streets, there are a great deal who they get there and then they struggle to survive, and then they do things that they cannot come back from.
Right. Yeah.
They cannot come back from, and then they're there. They're there. And I knew that I didn't want that to happen to me. I just did not want that to happen to me. So that was weighing on my head. I was 120 pounds, maybe less. I could sit down and I could feel the bones on my ass.
Ugh.
So I went to rehab, and I stayed in rehab. I stayed in detox. I went to Hooper for 9 days until I could get into rehab. Got into rehab, stayed for 64 days, and went into a sober house. And for me, that was the trajectory. And once I got there, I was like, I got to get into it. I just got to get into it.
Where'd you go to rehab?
Okay.
Fora.
DePaul. Yes. Oh, DePaul is Fora now?
It is. It's like a Hilton now. You went to DePaul downtown 13th?
When it was like rough and tough and yes.
That's where my daughter's father went as well.
So it was some of the best times in my life.
I just remember the rickety stairs going up top.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when I got out of prison, I had one term of college left. And my daughter's father was there. And they had just built this child center at the bottom on the other side in the front, like first class child center. And it wasn't open. And I needed him to watch her Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And they had a counselor go down with him, and he watched her from 8 to 12, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And she had this brand new center
Wow.
to be in, and I graduated. He was at my graduation. He's dead from an overdose, so I know how real that is. Yeah, but DePaul is now Fora, and we're actually interviewing the head of Fora in a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Looking forward to that. Definitely.
I'm looking forward to hearing that. I owe everything to Fora, and those early formative years, because that was a time period in which I was able to be vulnerable with a group of men who I didn't fucking know. I was able to, because I tell people, rehab is what you make of it. It's what you make of it.
It
You
is.
have to go in there searching for something
And wanting it.
and wanting it,
And
Not
want it.
just assigned to it.
to extract
Not just
it.
getting released to it.
Absolutely.
You have to
Yeah.
want it.
You have to want it. You
This
have to, it's not
program
going
you
to come
have
to you.
to want.
You have to.
I can't give it to you. Because
No.
if I could, I'd give it to many
Everybody.
people.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But I cannot. I can help you, but I can't give you the
It's
gift.
not going to happen. That is not something that is going to happen. You have to want it. And I think what made me successful is that I went in there of my own volition. I did not wait for the nudge from the judge. I went in there and I stayed. And my mindset was, I'm going to continue walking down that hallway. I'm going to continue walking. And I'm not going to turn back. I'm going to continue walking. I'm going to continue
I
walking
love that.
till I'm some place that I would never imagine I could be. And that's where I am now. So then I imagine now you want to talk about, what's my life now? Let's talk.
I want to know. So, DePaul, okay, when did you get introduced to the 12-step program? Was it DePaul?
Oh, okay. So yes.
Because
So
I brought a women's meeting there a few times.
oh, yes. So what happened is that there was a man who did up until COVID once a week beginners meeting, and I took him as my sponsor, and he became my sponsor.
I love it.
And that was my first sponsor, a straight man, like a biker, completely different from who I am. That's another thing that I love about AA is that it's the AA recovery period is that it's a great unifier.
Yeah.
It's a unifier.
We all have addiction in common.
Absolutely. And then you find yourself bonding on this deeper level with people that you would have never, ever ordinarily bonded with. And it's something that I drank for. Like I drank to have this kind of like experience to be able to reach someone else. I did that. I drank for that. I used drugs for that. And now I'm stone cold sober.
Yeah.
And I'm having the best relationships of my life. But yes, so I started the AA thing right in Fora. And then I just held on to it. And there was a time period, though, right before COVID hit. And I believe that this is really part of my story, is right before COVID hit, where I wasn't going to many meetings. And I was so depressed. And I had time. This was like 2019. I had time, but I was just miserable. I was so miserable and I wasn't going to meetings. And then COVID happened and I didn't understand Zoom. And I knew that I wanted some human interaction. And there was a particular meeting, Rose City, that meeting was open. We were wearing masks and 6 feet apart, but we were there. And I went, and it was like I think it was in like May or June of 2020. And I got a service position that right away, I was treasurer right away. And that saved my life because that plugged me in throughout the whole duration.
Right.
It plugged me in. And that's when I say the Jack that you see right now really developed. It's
some good guys in that meeting.
It's the fellowship. It's the program. It's that you're constantly applying yourself to the program, to recovery. They call it a program for a reason. It's programming. You're doing it's the neuro-linguistic. You're drinking the Kool-Aid.
You don't have to be alone. Like you said, you're in COVID. You're depressed. You're alone.
Yeah.
Like in AA,
Never.
you truly never have to be alone again unless you choose to.
Unless you choose to.
Yeah.
And then one of the best, connection is protection. I heard that. And connection is protection. And that's...
Oh, I agree.
And that saved my life. That protected me. And my life really just... COVID it just bloomed. So now I've got 2 sponsees, a secretary. So
Jack's secretary is my favorite meeting.
I've heard
yeah,
about
Spin
it.
the
I haven't
wheel
been to it.
popsicle stick meeting.
I hope you come, Peter, please.
Yes, I'll
Peter
make a
doesn't
point of
come
it.
at night, and he really needs to, because I'm always like, oh, they're from my nighttime meeting. They're from my nighttime meeting. And I have to tell you, nighttime meeting is where I met Colette. She was going to treatment during the day, and that's when I've talked about it. I know what you mean about when I went to work at my current job, after being with Sprint for 20 years, them all knowing I was sober. Yo, boss, I'm going to a meeting. It was that relationship because I was only 4 years sober when I started there. And when I was there, I went to court to get my record expunged. So they knew everything. One of them went with me as my witness. And the new job, I didn't let anyone know I was in recovery. I'm working 65 hours a week. And the first time in 24 years, I'm not going to meetings all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going, but it's like Memorial Day
Yeah.
because it's a holiday, right? I'm going, I work an extra day and I get a
Yep.
Friday off. So they're far and few in between. And I am stressed out. I got COVID,
Yep.
got sick, lonely as fuck because I don't trust anybody I work with because I'm so new. And then the codependency of trying to prove to you that I am flawless. You're so lucky to get me.
Oh.
Yeah. And I worked endlessly
Yep.
to prove that because at Sprint, I was ranked #1 operations
Yeah.
manager, but I didn't have to prove it. It was a given. And it is a lonely place. And when I had my little mental breakdown and got sick, stressed out, felt, what's that word you use all the time? Gaslit.
Oh, yeah.
I went to IOP and went back to meetings. That's when I met Colette and her crazy night in Safeway. And I've been invested every night since then. Was she
Likewise.
going to show up?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is lonely.
Yeah, and when you tell that story, 2 thoughts. 2 thoughts is that our addiction will find its any way, a pathway to hide in and then do its destructiveness. And so once we start hiding anything, that's why everyone knows I'm in recovery. Absolutely everyone knows I don't drink. Because if I were to tell one person that I don't drink, then I can have a smokescreen fantasy. And then
Yes.
if I wanted to, and my addiction is going to be like being, if I wanted to, and I know that with this one person, I could drink with because then they don't know what's really going on.
Yeah. For
And
me,
then-
it was my look good. I'm with this company. The people are bougie.
Yeah.
Is my polite version, predominantly Caucasian. I didn't want to feel less than, have you think bad of me. Like I was so worried about my professional image, and it really did me a lot of harm. Luckily, I had gone to meetings for so long. I guess I had some insurance build up because I didn't think about using, but I was losing in every other category.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Same here. Actually, and I am so grateful for recovery. I'm grateful for the restorative power of it. Now, to go into to tell you about the gift with my family, though.
Yes, please.
Yeah, what happened with my family though was something amazing.
That's okay.
The couch just moved on because I'm positioning myself to tell this really wonderful story. Is that in 2022, my cousin got married. Well, and I was prepared for it, of course, 9 months before then. I knew that I would have to fly down to Texas for this wedding to see my baby cousin get married. And I had not seen any of my family since I got on that plane, and they said, you can't come, you can't stay here. So at that time, that was like about 6 years. So
Wow.
so 6, yes, around there. And so I can't do math. But at that time period, I had done the work. They had enough time to see me from far away and see that Jack, who's we go call him and we see how he's doing, and if we call him 3 months later, we know that he's still okay. We know that he's not constantly in peril. We know that he can take care of himself. We know that he's an adult. One of the things that I hated about early recovery is the fact that there's a sense that we congratulate ourselves for things that normal people actually just do.
Working, paying
Yeah.
rent.
I
Yeah.
paid this bill. Oh,
Yeah.
I paid taxes.
yeah, look, I
Like,
did it. Yeah.
and it's still sometimes I'm like, but
I didn't go off on that bitch.
right, exactly. I'm always proud of myself for that. Yeah.
But yeah, and I went into that to just say that but they were proud of me for being able to take care of myself. And it was so ugly. It was so ugly before I had seen them. So when I got off the plane and I saw them for the very first time, I saw my grandmother who's like in her 80s and my grandfather who's 92 years old.
Wow.
And people like fought for time to just sit next to me, and I just want to hold your hand, and can I have lunch with you?
Well, and at this
And
time you're not 122 pounds. You're looking big, fine,
Yeah,
and
they-
just
Yeah.
flawless, Yeah.
and they feel it, and they feel it's the real thing. When I got sober, when I knew that I really wanted this thing, because for me, I tiptoed into it. I was like, okay, I'll do this. Okay. And then after maybe a few months, I'm like, I'm going to really do this. I want it to be the real thing. I want to be the real thing. I wanted this to be the real thing and have my family see that this was the real thing. And for me to find out that they really loved me, I knew that they really loved me and that I truly loved them. And it was the disease that kept us apart.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
So I say you can, if you right now are estranged from your family, you can have a repaired relationship if you want with your family. It can happen.
Yeah.
Those things can happen.
I think your story says even more than that, okay? For the person that's struggling, that's on the side of the street. Look at you. We're getting ready to celebrate 8 years sober
Yeah.
in just a few days. And to come from where you were to where you are now, and trust me, I understand that journey going from prison. And at first, I'm just getting
Yeah.
off parole. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just going to AA for 6 months to get
This
off
bitch
parole.
is lock up. You
Yeah,
lock
like,
up. You
yeah, exactly. But to want to stay and do the right thing, because I knew I was around good people that didn't want to have sex with me, that just wanted to see me do the right thing.
Yes.
And have faith in Julie. And believe it or not, when I go to our meetings, when I see Scott, him being at my first meeting, seeing Daryl once in a while. Daryl was at my probably first week of meetings, and seeing these guys, they're really old timers now, both in age and in the program, but they just still want the same thing from me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most amazing thing for me to see, is especially in the gay community. Gay community is that for the first time in recovery, I meet gay men who want to spend time with me, and it's not a sexual contract. No, it's because I really want to spend time with you. I don't want anything from you other than your time, your presence, because it enriches me. People who do things for each other. I was such a villain when I was a kid. I'm like, what I oftentimes say is that it's in recovery that you can go from a Disney villain to a Disney princess like that. I've met some of the best people I've ever will meet in my life through recovery, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and where you get your gifts. I'm sorry, Pete, I didn't know you were going to speak, but where you get your gifts, you'll never realize. I went to chair a meeting for Colette, and I'd call it one of my opportunities, and that's the polite version, the professional version,
Always.
being scared of the newcomer.
Mm.
Okay. I think that I was so scared in the beginning, and I didn't want to go back to prison, that I didn't fuck with you. Okay. If you were new in sobriety, because I had all these great role models that weren't, right? So I gravitated towards the Scots and stuff like that. But watching Colette come in, I got invested every night in seeing her. Like the one night she didn't show up, I was like, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I just had da-da-da-da." And I was like, "Okay." That started it. And then Marty, believe it or not, Marty got invested in him almost at the same time as,
Oh, Marty S?
yeah,
Yeah.
as
Gosh, yes,
Colette.
likewise.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
love Marty.
it was crazy. So when Colette asked me to go to her meeting, our winners, and I'm going to another chance, right? Not really Julie's thing. I'm just being honest. And my opportunity. But I went there, and when we left, first thing I did when I got in the car, I was like, holy shit. And I was grateful for my shoelaces. I was grateful for the opportunity to wash laundry, not taking it for granted. It changed my perspective, not necessarily about them. There's a lot of people in the room that not have the opportunity to make it.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
might, right?
Oh,
But
that's
I
yeah.
was so grateful when I left there. It was life-changing.
I am reminded of my homelessness every single day. We live in Portland, and I see the street kids. I see them in the tents and whatnot. And yes, my heart, and I want for them what I got, but I do understand that there are so many barriers
And boundaries.
and boundaries from that. It's not as simple for everyone.
They
There's
gotta want it too.
you gotta want it. Sometimes it's hard cyclical. Like they are raised like you all you know is the streets. That's all you know. I didn't know the streets, so I think that's what
Neither did I.
differentiated
No.
me. I knew a little bit of, but what I like to, I was telling Colette this is I like to be proven wrong. I like to be proven wrong for
Amen.
me. Yeah. And another really important way that I live my life is through positive intention. Positivity, always positive intention. And I like to say, be the good story that people like to tell. Be the good story that people like to
I
tell.
love that.
Yes, always. Instead of being the sad sack, no, I look for solutions. Yes, I said that. I know that sounds horrible, but no,
No, it doesn't.
I wake up and I find a reason to be happy because I spent so long. I spent too
That's
many
who I
tears.
see.
Yeah.
So you're doing a good job, because that's who I see. It's infectious in a good way to be around you. In real life, a lot of times I try to be that leader at work, like who I'm always positive no matter what we're going through. And I really try that, not always in meetings with higher ups, but with my people. And I think the role we play in other people's recovery we'll never understand completely. Sometimes it's a high. It's just a high.
We're not meant to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I view this, my higher power is the bigger picture. There's this huge cosmos, there's this huge thing at play that I will never see. I don't have to know. I do not have to know. All I have to do is know that it's not me, that I'm not it. And that is so freeing for me. That is so anxiety lifting that I am not the only one, and that I'm just one in a billion pieces, little cogs in
Right.
the wheel the celestial clockwork that
I
is
love that.
life, you know? And that's just awesome for me. And that just,
I think of it as my circle of influence because if I try to take it beyond that, and some people use the hula hoop as a metaphor, if you take it beyond that, I get overwhelmed, which leads to anxiety and leads to inaction. And so if I can just keep it within my circle of influence, then, and also I liked how you touched on keeping that positive attitude because my mind, it's so easy to go down that negative path. Every
it
morning I
is.
wake up with that path. Come on, let's go. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to go this way
Mm.
with intention. As you
Yeah,
said, I choose to take this brighter, positive path. And
absolutely.
it helps immensely to have that attitude. The dark side, that's your Star
Creeps
Wars
up.
friend.
Yes. Yeah.
Colette is here with us today. I would like to know if you'd like to come sit by Jack and you would like to talk about hiring Jack for the millions of dollars that you've paid him to be your sponsor.
Come on over here. Come on over here.
I think we haven't had a sponsee relationship. Mine's been on the show, but we didn't really get that opportunity.
Yeah, and then to just
And
swing that mic over,
there's a couple episodes you haven't heard
lean in
where
close.
you're our fan favorite,
Oh,
especially
gosh.
during me and Peter's check-in. I picked your episode as my favorite. That and Jonah's brought me to tears, but him saying that you saved his life was like, and I'm like, my Colette? Our Colette? It was great.
I love that I'm somebody's Colette.
Colette has saved so many lives. Colette's such a rock star.
Gosh.
It's true. Since my reset, let's just call it that, have probably taught me more than any other person. I tell you this all the time. You'd think she has 6,000 years sober compared to vice versa, but your willingness to help the newcomer start this beginners are winners meeting is impacting. It impacted Peter and I. Am I not lying, Peter?
No, yeah, it was very impactful and it makes you, like you say, grateful for your shoelaces. It's just to see these people. It also brought me back to my early days and where I was, and to see these people and how happy and positive they are in that meeting. Yeah,
I was
it's
never
uplifting
homeless,
in that way.
but I stayed in hotels for 3.5 years.
That's homeless.
I was, but
Girl, did you have a deed?
look, I didn't have a deed, but I thought, so let me give you how twisted my thinking was. Because I wasn't on 82nd hoeing, right? And I was an escort, Jack, not a hoe, okay? Not a prostitute. I was an escort. And because I rented a hotel room in Northwest Portland that had a living room, a bedroom, a kitchen, and a bathroom, and that was like our 1-bedroom apartment, that, of course, I was better than that.
And you're homeless.
You were out of the way, ho. That's
Look, again, I was an escort, Jack, but no. So that's how I literally thought. Talk about unique. And I wasn't raised on the streets either. I went to a Catholic school. I didn't even learn about Portland until I went to college. I hadn't drank. I hadn't had sex in high school. I was really good. We're here to talk about Colette and Jack. Boom.
So what happened for me was I was going to outpatient 5 days a week, 9:30 till 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day. And I would go to the extended family Zoom meeting because my neighborhood was after dark. It was not a very safe neighborhood to be in. So I would not leave my home. I would keep making sure I got home where I was safe, and I'd go to the Zoom meetings. And after a little while of being sober, I knew I wasn't going to be able to hold on to it because I'd been sober before. And the only reason I had 3.5 years in East County. And the only reason I got that far, the only thing that helped me to be in recovery at that time was by working the steps. And so I'm crying every night on extended family. I'm like, I need a sponsor. And I got this text. I'd be willing to be your sponsor. Yes, thank God somebody heard me. Literally, I didn't know.
Girl, you know I
I was
wasn't gonna do it.
crazy. Huh?
I wasn't gonna.
Well, Julie told me, Julie already, she didn't even want to kick it with me because I was a newcomer. But, okay,
It's not true.
back about me. So Jack sent me a text and said, hey, I'd like to be your sponsor. And he sent me his number, or somehow we ended up connecting. And I said, would you please walk me through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous? And he said, yes, I will. And he immediately, went on Amazon, got me a big book, sent it to me. I have had the most gracious, I'm spoiled. My sponsor spoils me. But that's how he ended up being my sponsor, just him reaching out. And it took me a while before he told me that I was the first person he ever decided to sponsor. And I don't know how that came about, so maybe he'll tell you.
Hovered over that send button because I typed it out. I said, I'll help you. It's because
On extended family
on
chat?
extended family chat. Yeah, and she was so desperate. And she was so desperate, and I was like, how crazy is this bitch? That's what I was saying. I was like, how crazy is she? Because you don't know, with some newcomers, we're all crazy when we come in.
No,
you know?
she was crazy at fucking Safeway in the meeting crazy.
Yeah, I got them bug eyes and just, oh my God.
I'll never forget that night.
Yes.
Yeah.
This bitch is wild. So I hovered over that. But really the thought was, how much I was thinking, like, I don't want to fuck this up. I know how needy. Then this is the woman who's, every time she tells her, I'm the pimp's kid. Like this, do I have what she needs? But my higher power just said click, and we were off to the races. And that totally says to me that we don't know how we are fingers of someone else's higher power. And so I don't know how I'm useful to her. I just know that I'm useful to her, and that I'm open to it, and that I follow the relationship, and that it's beneficial for me as much as it is for her. And it adds joy to my life. That's it. Seeing her grow and seeing her get with her family. We were talking about these things that are happening between her and her family, these steps. And I'm like, wow, you're about to get your family like someplace that it hadn't been in years.
Look, someone is going to trust her with their child. Yes. Like, we were talking about it last night, and I said, that for me to trust you with my child is the ultimate to me, because I still don't trust you with my child on a good day. But for me to, and I trust my sponsor with my child, which is amazing. But yeah.
So what he was able to do for me is, I'm telling you, I'm spoiled. He got a packet of the steps and put them in a 3-ring binder of some sort, and having everything written out for me, what I was supposed to read before we met, and how highlight this and mark this down, and if anything comes up. Yep. And so I did that, and we got together and we did steps 1, 2, 3. Bam, done. I struggled with this. Isn't my story, so I'm not going to talk too long about myself. I struggled with step 2 and 3. Got past that. We got together. He gave me the paperwork for 4. I did all of my 4, some of it grudgingly, but I did it. And then we sat down and I got all the big uglies out of the way. We did 5. And then we did 5, 6, 7 together. And then.
Is that where you stalled out?
Yeah. 5, 4.
Yeah. Okay, she stalled out for about a whole month or
on
something.
Step 4.
She stalled out, and I kept on trying to get in touch with her, and we talk, and then and I said to her, we need to just get back together and just run through it quicker. Because for me, I understood that she needed to be released. Now, for a lot of people, doing the steps, it's a rite of passage, and it's a key opening up a door, and they get this freedom to, like, it says to them, you're free. you can go out and do what you got to do. And I needed her to have that so that she could feel relief and get some relief. And then we could go back over the steps again, which I'm sure we will do with a fine-tooth comb. But
Amen.
we got to get her through so she can help others,
With the big
because
uglies.
that, yes.
So I want to bring up one thing,
yeah.
only because I was there.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's really good for our listeners. Okay. A lot of people get fucked up with the God thing. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So tell our listeners what Jag told you to think of as your higher power.
I don't believe it was Jack. Are you talking about attributes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
wasn't
was-
me.
That wasn't Jack. That was Meredith Walker,
Oh.
who worked at Another Chance. And she was my counselor. And yeah, she said, write out what attributes you would like to have as a higher power. And I did that.
Shout out to Meredith.
Shout out to Meredith. Love you, babe. Mean it. And I was able to glom onto that. And that's all it took, was for me to get it and then trust the process from there. So after I stalled out on 4, I eventually got it done. We talked on the phone for 6 days, it seems like. He and I talked a long time.
Oh,
And
Girl, you had a lot of shit.
I told this man
In
everything.
5 hours. It was 5 hours, and she told me everything from front to back. It was like watching
Forrest Gump twice. It was like
He just compared you to a white duck man. Get out.
You know what? I know what I know exactly what
I
I'm
know
talking
what
about.
just sitting there through it, and it was epic though. It was very epic. But the process is much like lancing a wound.
Mm-hmm.
Lancing a wound where you got the pus and the blood and all that stuff, and you lance it, and all that gunk comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is then they gauze it up, and then they let it heal, and they let it sit. Okay, we let it all out. Now let's let it heal. And it hurts. Yeah, it hurts. But then by the time you get done with 9 and 8, you are healed. And then 11 is this, and then you get 10 and 11, and then 11 is you looking back, and then this wonderful thing happens where you realize that the psychic change has already been implanted. It's already happened. It's already happened. And it's not this magical thing. And I was telling
It's
her-
not. Oh, no, I agree with you.
The book, it's a program. It's so meticulously put together, and it blows my mind how well put together it is. And this is not exactly a podcast, but I'm really tooting AA's horn right now, is because the program is so well put. Because like I was telling her a little bit earlier, is that if you do the things you do in the program, like service commitments, if you show up to shit on time, if you say what you're going to say, and then make a promise and keep that promise.
Keep your word.
If you do it right, you show up the way that you show up in AA, in other areas in your life.
Right.
And those are attributes that get you jobs, partners,
Daughter's calling you?
yes, daughters calling you. People's lives take flight, and it's an amazing thing that happens. And it's not magic. It's not magic. And I want other people to really understand that it's not magic.
You have to do the work.
But you just have to do the work. And some kids, I think they think it's magic, and then they say, that magic will never happen for me.
And I think people give up before the dream happens.
And for me, I couldn't
not
afford to not trust the process. I couldn't question the process. I couldn't be like, okay, so we're going to do this, but what am I going to get out of it? I couldn't afford any of that. I had to trust the process. And at that point in my recovery, Jack was kind of like my higher power. And I was trusting the process that this man knows how to stay sober for 7 years. And that's the miracle. He's going to teach me how to stay sober this long.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that in his authenticity. You know, Jack is who Jack is here. You've seen him on Facebook. Jack ain't shit. Lord, I stay off his Facebook now. But he's
it
just,
depends.
I have a dirty sense of humor.
he's got an amazing sense of humor, you know, and I can't give you higher accolades. You saved my life. You know what it was? He saw me. And most people don't see me. They see whatever.
Who you want them to see.
Exactly. They see my shell, my external. And you saw me, and thank you.
The other thing I remember too,
Yeah.
before you got Jack, is I was so invested in you showing up every night. I really was. I still am. That at first you were just looking for your next safe place to go to treatment, to go home, to go to a meeting, to go to Safeway with us. And I think Jack was your next safe place.
Yes.
But what it's come to is you now provide a safe place for people.
Yes. And
Did I say that right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We had a conversation because Colette had a little mini meltdown, probably like June last year or sometime in the summer when you were about to leave another chance. And August. And you were not quite sure.
She didn't want to leave.
Yeah, she didn't want to leave.
Kick her ass out.
And then she came to me and she said, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I don't know what's going to happen. And I said, you have a home group. This is where you have a home group. You have a sponsor. This is what happens. This is where the baby eagle leaves the nest. But you have a flock around you that's going to make sure that you're okay. Then you get invested in them because that's the thing. Like we go to rehab. Rehab is like this incubation.
Rehab just gets you clean. It doesn't keep you clean.
It doesn't keep you clean. Then you have to replicate that in the real world. You got your other places. And that's why that's why I think it's very important to have some program. If it's not there's the other ones like Smart Recovery or whatnot. There are other ones.
Yeah, and a lot of the programs that are out there for all different substances
Yeah.
and including gambling and overeating and so forth, they have a lot of the same principles because as you were alluding to, the AA book that was
Yep.
when it was written, the alcohol was the thing.
1936.
And the way they wrote it, but a lot of the addictions cross over so many places.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
this program can help. And in fact, some people say wish normies would have this program because it's so
Absolutely.
beneficial
Right.
to
Can I get
being
an
a better
amen?
person in
Amen.
life.
Yeah.
And also what you guys just shared here, that's the beauty. For me, that's the beauty of one person in recovery helping another person in recovery.
Absolutely.
You just heard it right here. And that is replicated over and over again in that sponsorship relationship and in the fellowship and in the meetings. Just listening to someone in a meeting and taking what they have shared and applying it to yourself
Yeah.
and looking for the similarities, not
Yeah,
the
and
differences.
trusting the process.
And trusting the
Trusting the
process.
process. I couldn't second guess Jack. I was all in. And if I would have came in with all of these second guessing questions and the biggest thing for me with Jack was allowing myself to be a newcomer because I've been in the rooms for a long time,
Mhm.
for a very long time. So I know the book. I used to walk around going, I'm a page 21 alcoholic. And if you want to know what that is, it's in our book. It's on page 21. I knew the book. I could
You still
recite
do.
how it works verbatim.
But are you living the book?
Exactly. I had all of this intellectual knowledge. And with Jack, I had to throw away everything I thought I knew about AA, the program, the fellowship, all of that, and trust in the process that this man loves me. He just started saying it like 2 months ago, but he's loved me before that. So
She's the auntie I never had. But here's another thing. Here's a very is that in sponsoring, I found that sponsorship is very affirming to the choices that I've made in my recovery,
Mm,
in my
mhm,
steps,
mhm.
that I made the right calls.
Yeah.
That I'm on the right path, and that I have been on the right path before. And that's really good to know. That's really good to know that worked for me. And then I meet this other person and I give them this suggestion. They take it and it works for them. Then that means that is solid. That was
It
some
wasn't a mi-
solid
it
advice.
Yeah.
wasn't a mistake
It
either.
wasn't
Yeah,
a mistake.
no.
That was some good ass advice. And that is so affirming for me. And that keeps
Mhm.
me where I'm at, because now I'm like at that 8-year mark, like where a lot of people start to get, oh, I'm healed, or oh, I'm bored. And I don't want that. So
Me either.
now I'm looking like, okay, and the people that I went into this knowing and hearing, taking advice from other people, from older people, other people who had more time, that what you do is you do the same shit, but you also, when your program is not working, you switch it up.
Mhm.
You switch it up. You
Yeah.
just
I just added
change.
2 things.
Yeah.
And the good thing about me, or the program, not me, is that it is like the book says, an onion, and you just can keep pulling off layers and pulling off layers and pulling off layers. I would like to say I'm a slow learner, and I do mean that because I think of fear. I was only willing to, I've always thought meetings are important, period. Meeting makers make it. I believe in that. I believe in, if you're having a hard time, double up on your meetings.
Oh, yeah,
But
absolutely.
I've let, oh, for just me personally, I went to an Overeaters Anonymous meeting this week just to help in that area. And for the first time ever, I went to acupuncture. And being an IV drug user, acupuncture was
Girl.
suggested to me about 70 times. And I was
Girl.
like, no, I'm just saying, I was like, fuck no. And when I went there this week, it was really hard. My brain did gazillion time, and I was not all relaxed during it. I'm being honest. I was scared shitless the whole time. When I left there, I was like, whoa. I was a little chill.
Yeah.
But it took me 27 years to try that new thing, and I've only sponsored 3 people. And the one before this last one, they were on their 4-step and they were stuck. And I was like, let's just go to the grotto, get a slice of pizza, and let's do it. And I tried to make it so it wasn't overwhelming to them so they wouldn't get stuck. Because every time they got to the 4-step, they went back out. And so, yeah, I get that. But I think doing new things and taking new risks pays off.
Yeah, and the benefit for me as far as the 4th and the 5th step, it, I can just call Jack and just start talking. I don't have to give him the whole backstory. Like, I don't have to keep reminding him that my dad was a pedophile pimp. I don't have to say that. I can say, this is emotionally triggering me. Bleh. Or he knows everything.
Mm.
And thank God,
Do you know my
because
sponsor?
I can just pick up the phone and just start talking without having to give a backstory. And what I also know is that everything that he knows is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give her, going to give her my best advice that is solid. And I've always looked up to people that you could actually, you could trust what they had to say. They weren't going to pull shit out of their ass. That's the kind of person that I strive to be, is somebody who you can trust what they said you thought about it. I've thought about it. So it does my heart so much well that you have that trust in me. And it's just it blows my mind that I have that. I also wanted to touch on, because we were there, kind of talking about it, about recovery and the things that you hope newcomers go into recovery having. And I do believe that it's good for a newcomer to get into recovery with a hope for the future. You have to have a hope and a vision for the future. Because if you don't have a vision for the future, what's going to keep
Right.
you
Yeah.
fixated? What's going to keep you world building? Because
Mm.
I see a lot of kids. I call everybody kid. I'll say kids, a lot of kids. Hey,
Makes
kid. I
me
want to
feel
call you kid.
younger.
This kid. I see a lot of kids in the program, and then they think that they can get sober and then just go back to your regular life.
Right.
That's not going to
No.
happen. No, you're dealing with essentially, you've removed the alcohol. You're dealing with a completely different person. I like to liken it to my addiction is like a snow globe that's constantly being shaken. And then the moment I got sober, that snow globe is placed down.
That's
It's
cool.
yes. And
I
it took
like
some
that better
time.
than the sore. The sore one is gross, just so you know.
Lancing
Yeah.
the sore.
When you cut it open and you let the pus out, I've heard you say it before, and all I think of is an abscess, and I'm so
But that
grossed out.
worked.
But it
It
worked.
worked
But
for
it
me.
worked. But it works
Yeah.
really,
Yeah,
really well
it
for
does.
to picture. But when I do talk about the process of us of rediscovering identity too. A rediscovering identity is just that snow globe, and then it takes some time to settle, and then you're looking at this figurine that you have never seen before.
Well, and I also say it's like lenses. Your lenses are changed. You're looking through sober eyes, and your world
Yeah.
is different.
Yes. So
And
you
you
got to
can't go back to that
Trixie,
other
be
lens.
You
careful.
can't. So then you have to build a new life for
Yeah.
yourself. And I see that in Colette, and that's what saved me. That's what helps me is that I knew that I needed to provide for myself. I knew that I wanted to have what my peers were having at my age. I'm 41. I saw friends having apartments that they liked, things that they loved, and jobs. What really important is that I found a job that I enjoyed where I felt like I was helping people. And yes, I have a job now that I love with people that I love doing something that I love. And if things are just complete. And that is what drives me.
Be
Colette
like
has
you.
that.
Yeah.
Colette has that.
I now have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always thought of like when I was on East County and I had 3.5 years, my whole program, a lot of my program was the 3 Ps. Purpose, you have to have a reason to get up in the morning. Why are you waking up at 7 o'clock every morning? It's got to be a purpose. People, you have to have people in your life. As cringy and as uncomfortable it was for me to go to the I always call it the party after the party, but go to the meeting after the meeting, which is going for pizza or gay tacos or anywhere and hanging out with these people
Yeah.
and eating.
I hate
Yeah.
people.
But it's immersing
then-
yourself in
Yeah, and
in
then
it.
the last P is pleasure. I have
I
to
thought you
have
were going to say
fun.
pussy.
Oh, there goes our tag. We gotta have an
Yeah.
explicit tag now.
We gotta great. But yeah, people, purpose, and pleasure. I've got to have fun.
Mhm.
I've got to have fun. If I'm not having fun, why am I doing this?
You are
No
fun.
pee for me.
That's one of my favorite sayings. We aren't to glum lot. And when I got into the program, I thought, oh yeah, my fun days are over.
Right. And if
But-
I'm not having here,
Yeah. What's the point?
why am I? Forget it. I'd rather
Yeah.
be miserable.
Yeah, you know what? I think maybe that's the thing that my life is missing a little bit of that.
Fun.
A little bit of fun, but I'm working on that. There are things that I'm still working on. And that's the beauty is
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
I have the clarity
Yeah.
to work on it and the tools to work on these things. And that's what's going to drive me.
I think also you go to nighttime meetings mostly because you work, right? And, you can get, for me, it took me going to afternoon meetings on Friday to get in that groove, and then nighttime meetings to maintain in between. Because when you're online Zoom, you're not going out for pizza right after. I hang out in the parking lot, and I know when I host, I keep the parking lot open sometimes 30 minutes to sit there and laugh with somebody, make fun of Al, something like that. And
Al.
yeah,
Poor guy.
Poor Al.
please, the last time me and Al are in a meeting, Jack has turned back to us and he had his phone and he was answering some text messages. And I was joking and I was like, we can see your text messages. And he was like, you can? And I said, no, I was just looking at your fine ass. And
Oh my
And I
God.
said, start smiling from ear to ear,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I've got a lot of pornography on my phone, okay? So I've got a lot of dirty things because
Oh
I
my
I
goodness.
couldn't see your phone. It was totally
I could have had to
Yeah,
dig
no.
up there. I did not want
No.
to see that.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a gay man, okay? Just so you know.
It's part of life. Come on,
Yes,
people. Grow up.
Yes.
Peter and I may or may not have received a dick pic.
Oh,
or-
you telling people?
no, a dick pic or two from somebody we know
Yeah.
mutually by accident.
By accident.
And
But-
I'll be like, holy shit.
I'm like,
Did-
wrong number.
Yeah.
Was
Dean-
it big? Was it big?
Look, you have his
was
Off-
full,
We'll talk
you
to
have
off
Jack's
camera.
full attention right
I
now.
deleted that shit so quick I can't
You have
even
his
tell
full
you.
attention.
My eyes.
All right. Before we get too far off track here, anything, we're getting ready to wrap up here. And
Yeah.
I appreciate so much. I was sitting here. Sometimes I don't talk as much as Julie,
Yeah,
Go
I was
figure.
like-
but no, I was sitting here and I was just in my head. I was like, this is so incredible to be here. These people who would have thought I would have had you guys in my home telling your heartfelt stories. It's just amazing. It blows my mind away that I have this opportunity and I can helm this ship and
He
produce
does
this
so
show.
much stuff behind the scenes. We have a website because of Peter. We're on Spotify
It's
because
because
of Peter.
I'm a geek, okay? So
And Colette, I want you to think about one thing from Safeway.
We're gonna get some tears.
Yeah. To hear on the board of directors of the Real Recovery podcast that is nationwide, girl.
Nationwide.
worldwide.
I'm on-
Worldwide.
I'm
We've got
on the-
Italy. Some people
I'm
in
the
Italy listen
treasurer.
to us. In
Wow.
India.
They
Yeah,
don't
it's
trust me
amazing.
with money.
The good thing is we don't have no
Hopefully
money.
everybody just heard me. I was like, they don't trust me with money.
So far, we're like the seventh tradition. We're self-supporting through
Right?
our own
Yes,
contributions.
exactly.
That's amazing.
But 4 months in, you can even buy our merchandise on our website. Like, who'd have fucking thought?
Oh.
Peter is a genius. He might
So-
not talk as much, but the shit wouldn't happen without him behind the scenes. So
It's an
Right,
honor
yeah.
and a privilege to have
oh,
this ability to have you here. And
it's an honor to be here.
And I'm glad you
It's an
found
honor to
us.
be here.
yes,
You found your tribe.
I did. Yes, I say that almost every show.
It's an honor to be able to tell your story because you don't know who is listening, who
Yes.
needs to hear that. It's just like meetings. Who needs to hear that? So it's the service of visibility, and that's what. In closing, that's what I understood. I had this epiphany about 6 years into recovery is that I could not be in the background. I could not just stay in my home. I needed to come to meetings, be in the recovery community because my recovery, the fact that I had at the time 6 years, meant something to somebody else, could mean something to somebody else.
Yes.
As an African American, as gay, as whatever, as just a human being, I see this person who I can't even get one day. They have 6, 7, 8 years. Whoa. If they can do it, I can do it.
I
And
love
yes,
watching that.
It's a beautiful thing. So if you're out there and you hear something that clicks, hang on to it and then write it into a meeting and find the others because you don't have to be alone.
Right. Well put. Very well put.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
You can
Jack.
go from homeless
Yeah.
to recovery to there's so many options in your life.
Thank you, Jack, for being on our show.
My
Thank you,
pleasure.
Colette.
Colette
This was
for
lovely.
returning again. Colette's episode, I believe, was episode 3 or 4. So you can go back and listen to it. And I'm Peter with the Real Recovery Podcast with
Julie.
thanks for listening.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks to each and every one of you for lending us your ears and hearts. Your engagement is what fuels our passion and keeps this podcast thriving.
We cherish the moments we share here and hope they resonate with you, whether you're on a daily commute, at the gym, or just taking a moment for yourself.
Make sure to head over to our website at realrecoverypodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter for the latest insights and uplifting stories from our community delivered straight to your inbox.
Click that subscribe button on your favorite podcast player too, so you can keep up with every new episode. It's your support that keeps our conversation alive and meaningful.
And if our stories have touched you, consider using the donate button on our site. Your contributions, no matter the size, are deeply appreciated. They help us continue our mission of sharing hope and healing.
Join us beyond the podcast and follow our journey on social media. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and on X, formerly known as Twitter. All the links are on our site, so you can stay connected and be a part of the Real Recovery community every day.
Your likes, shares, and comments not only spread the message of recovery, but also remind us that we're all in this together.
So, until we meet again, remember that recovery is a journey, not a destination, and we'll be here to accompany you every step of the way to recovery, real recovery.
Thanks for listening.